just thought I would do a quick little demo stream of the bread that I'm gonna make for the banh mi's. Probably only gonna be like a half hour for now. And then I'll be back at 3, like usual, to finish the rest of dinner off. It's gonna be delicious. Just gonna set up some music for us first though. And then I'll get us going in a sec. And hope everyone is having a fab day so far. Okay, I am here. Here. So, banh mi bread is pretty much just a traditional baguette. I think it's mixed and made a little bit differently than the French style, but that is what it's based off of. So that's what we're gonna be making today. And banh mi actually means bread in Vietnamese. So onto the ingredients, so we can start this. 1 pack of active dry yeast, 1.5 cups of lukewarm water. You don't want it too warm, otherwise it'll kill your yeast off. You don't want that. 3.5 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So the salt is gonna help the gluten form the bread. That way you'll get a really nice crust. And then 1 tablespoon of sugar, just to speed up the fermenting process for the bread. And that will feed the yeast so it gets all happy. And I think I'm having some lag here. Which is sad. But first things first, let's put our flour into the mixer with the sugar, and then we're going to mix our water and yeast as well. So 3.5 cups of flour. And this is gonna make 4 small individual loaves. Or you can also make 2 like bigger baguettes and just cut them in half after. It's really up to you. But I like to do the individual serving. Okay, 1 tablespoon of sugar. Sugar. In. And I'm just gonna grab the yeast. Monocle, hi Monocle. I'm just making the banh mi bread up right now, just so it has time to proof before I start the stream at 3. And I just thought I would pop on and do this and see if anyone wanted to watch me. But the video will also be there later on for 2 weeks. So you can go back and watch it if you want to learn how to do that. So if you don't have like 1 packet of dry yeast, it's also measured out in 1/4 ounce. I am going to do that because I don't have a packet with me. Oh, actually I might. No, I'm not gonna use the quick rise stuff. It's not as good. go. And now I'm gonna measure out my 1.5 cups of warm water. So if you want to temp it, it should be around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I wouldn't go more than 90 though, because then you're just gonna kill the yeast off. And I think I might put some starter into this as well. Just to give it, the crust, like a little bit more bite and flavor. Since we're not doing like a long proof on this, the starter won't give much more than a little bit of sour flavor. There is our water. Now I'm just gonna sprinkle the yeast into that and let it sit for a couple minutes just to activate it. Give it a little stir if you need. So this is my starter that I always keep it in the fridge, and that way I only have to feed it once a week. If you keep it out every day, then you have to feed it twice a day. And that's a little excessive. It's like carrying after a child, I feel. So unless you're like baking and doing stuff every day with it, just keep it in the fridge. And then you only feed it once a week. Make sure it's always on the same day. Oh, the gnocchi was so good yesterday. I had it for lunch leftover. It was delicious. I was a little bit worried about the dough, but they are still really fluffy. It didn't fall apart at all. So the little bit of alcohol that was left on top of this starter as it was sitting, I just mixed that in. So now it's all fine, and you can kind of see the consistency of it. And I'm probably just gonna put about a 1/2 cup of that into the bread. I don't know. I just like to add it to my bread a little bit when I make it. I feel like I never really follow a certain recipe ever. Like I always just put my own spin on it and see what happens. It's more fun that way. So our yeast is getting all frothy and happy. Now I'm gonna just give this a little bit of a mix to incorporate the sugar first, and then I'll add the water. And I'm using my dough hook. If you have a KitchenAid, I would use the dough hook for this. Now I can add this. Oh, yay for measuring cups. That sucks. And then also add the starter now, if you have it. This is optional though. You don't need it. And if anyone's wondering, the starter's name is Goldilocks. Just had to clean up whatever water I just spilled. My measuring cup's crazy. Okay, so we're gonna mix this a little bit before we add the salt. Because salt is great for bread. You need it in everything that you make bread-wise, but you don't want to add it right away because it also inhibits the yeast activity. So a lot of people don't know that, and then they wonder why their bread's not proofing enough, and that is usually why. So I always mix this up a little bit and then add the salt. So that looks good. Pretty much mixed up, and we're doing 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I always like to use kosher for this, or a sea salt of sorts. I would not suggest using like an iodized salt for this because you will get that metallic flavor in your bread. So just sprinkle that in there. And then we're gonna mix this up. So I'm gonna mix this until I can kind of see the gluten strands starting to form. And then to test if it's done mixing, I always just take like a little ball of dough and stretch it in between my hands and see if you can see through the dough but it doesn't break. That's when you know that you've created enough gluten in your dough, and then it's time to rest that. So this recipe that I'm using, I'm gonna go all the way to the top. This is from Viet World Kitchen. And that's the Vietnamese baguette recipe that I looked up. And this looked like the best one to use. She said she did like a lot of research on this, so I trust her. It's always the first thing. And then this needs to rise for probably a good 2.5 hours. And you do punch it down after an hour. So many tricks. It's looking happy already though. Beautiful. And then if you want to come back and watch later, I'm going to be making lemongrass chicken to put into the banh mi, as well as the veggie pickles. So I picked up some carrots and radish. Hey, pickled eggs, how are you? And I'm also going to make salad rolls, just vegetarian ones, because we need our veggies still. And then some nuoc cham, which is like the fish saucy, like clear sauce that you usually get for dipping spring rolls, and also a spicy peanut sauce to go with all this. I thought that would be a pretty fun day. I am doing great. Thank you for asking. It's good to see you in here. And then another thing to look for when you're mixing your bread dough is it should turn really smooth and shiny. There should be no lumps in it. I know. I've like finally cleared out the freezer of all the bread, and I just told myself, I'm not buying bread anymore. Because I do love making it, and there's no reason that I don't have time to make it right now. And it's just so delicious. And that way you also know what you're eating in your bread. Because I don't trust like a lot of grocery stores and stuff that make bread. Because they just load it with sugar so that they can get it to rise super fast. I don't like it. And commercial yeast is definitely not the best thing to eat all the time, which people don't realize that. Like, most people are allergic to the yeast instead of the gluten. There's a lot of different factors, but homemade bread is always so much better. Like, I might experiment with this recipe later on again and just use my sourdough starter so I don't have to use any yeast. That's what I'm gonna hope to do. Turn this guy up a bit. Get a better angle on this for you guys. Oh, I know. Like, just the smell. I'm surprised they haven't made an air freshener of that smell yet. I don't know if you guys can kind of tell, but like just looking in the camera here on my screen, you can kind of see the bread coming together and getting a lot more smooth. It looks like we're almost there. A fresh bread cologne. Another thing that I made recently on the weekend was English muffins. Super, super good from scratch. Like, they rose to be like 2 inches high at least. I did not expect it to turn out that well. See how I'm just like pulling it and it's tearing? So we're not quite there yet. I should be able to pull it and like stretch it quite a bit. Play-Doh perfume. Oh, I'm just like thinking about how that smell was when I was younger. I don't think I would enjoy it now. And then I don't know if you guys noticed, but I put up a little like Amazon wish list thing, or like tools that I use in the kitchen, up on my channel page. If you guys want to take a look at that, those are like all of the things that I would recommend you getting if you really want to start cooking all the time. Oh, I know, it was so good, that pulled pork. All we did was like brown it off in the pan, the pork, and then braised it, or like put it into a low oven, 325, for about half an hour. Took it out. There was maybe like a cup of liquid from the pork in the bottom, and then we put half a can of Strongbow into it, and then let it braise at 275 for like 4 more hours, and it was seriously just butter. It was so good. Simple food is always the best. Just let the ingredients speak for itself. Okay, let's check this. So you see how it's starting to web? That means we're almost there. This is seriously my favorite mixer though. It's so much fun to play with when you're making stuff. Like, you don't have to worry about getting your hand caught into anything. Okay, guys. I think we are good. It's looking really nice and shiny. So see how that's lifting up now? That is what we are looking for. Just gonna scrape that off. And then I'm just gonna let this rise in this container, in the mixing bowl. Yeah, I know, just like a cheap cider. It was super good. Get this off. And then I'm gonna scrape down the side as well. There we go. So that is all happy. Captain Cheval. Hello, how are you? Welcome to the stream. I'm actually just finishing up. This was just a quick little half-hour stint of me mixing up the banh mi bread dough. So there we go. I'm not gonna ball it up at all at this point. I'm just gonna cover it, put it in like a warm-ish place. You're looking for around 80 degrees Fahrenheit to proof your bread. So what my little trick is, I usually just put it over by the fireplace, not too close, and let that chill out. If you don't have a fireplace, yeah. If you don't have a fireplace though, you could also like preheat your oven really low, turn it off about half an hour beforehand, and stick your bread in there to proof. So this is my dough, and this little mixer comes with a lid for the bowl so that you can proof your stuff right in it. It's so handy. And I'm gonna let this go for an hour to start. And then it says to just punch down the dough or get all the bubbles out of it after an hour. And do that 3 times. But it also said in the recipe that every consecutive punch down is gonna get shorter. So keep that in mind. So I'll probably do an hour for the first one and then check it after the next half hour. Because what time is it right now? It's already 2. So in an hour, I'm gonna be back on at 3 anyways. So you guys are gonna be able to see what the bread looks like at that point. And then I'll work with it from there. So thanks everyone for watching this quick little demo of making some banh mi dough. And I will be back in an hour to finish the rest of dinner off, which is lemongrass chicken banh mi's, which we have to get marinating first thing at 3. Veggie salad rolls, which I'm going to pickle some vegetables for those from scratch. And then nuoc sham sauce and spicy peanut sauce. So see you guys in an hour. And if you can't make it back, well, I hope you have a great day.